She was the first Hollywood movie star and the most famous person in the world. Known as America's sweetheart during the silent film era, she eventually became the most powerful woman in Hollywood. She was a woman who made a difference.
Their contributions made the world a better place. This is Women Who Made a Difference.
This is the story of Mary Pickford, a stage and screen actress with a career that spanned 50 years. She was a trailblazer and a pioneer. She was a prolific actress. Then she broke into producing. Later, she co-founded a studio, modern film industry as we know it today. She was born in Toronto and given the name Gladys Marie Smith just a few years before the dawn of the silent film era. Gladys grew up with a brother and sister. Her father died when she was very young, and this tragedy led her mother to have to take in boarders so that the family could survive financially. This happenstance would change the trajectory of young Gladys's life. One of the boarders who moved in with her and her family was Mr. Murphy. Now, we don't even know his first name today, but we do know he was a theatrical stage manager who suggested to her mother, Charlotte, that young Gladys be given a small theatrical role. Charlotte approved of the idea and allowed young Gladys and her younger sister Lottie to enter the theater. Gladys's very first appearance on stage was in a production of The Silver King at Toronto's Princess Theatre, and it was the first in many performances. Her mother and her siblings also became involved in the theater, and after the turn of the century, they traveled by train to perform in productions all over the United States. But the family wasn't making a lot of money, and Mary was ready to give up. Her dream was to star on Broadway, but she knew she had to give up the idea if she didn't land something soon. In 1907, she starred in a supporting role in the play The Warrens of Virginia. Now, the producer of that play suggested that young Gladys change her name to what we know her today, Mary Pickford. One of the early motion picture companies was Biograph. In 1909, D.W. Griffith, who was then a director for the Biograph Company, gave a screen test to Mary for a role in the film Pippa Passes. Although she didn't get the part she auditioned for, Griffith knew she was very special and he cast her in a minor role in the film. Today, history remembers D.W. Griffith as one of the most influential figures in the history of motion pictures. He pioneered many aspects of film editing, and he happened to think Mary Pickford was very special. Immediately after seeing her in action, Griffith agreed to pay her $10 a day, which was twice the rate most actors at the Biograph Company were earning. Mary became quite a busy actress and starred in all kinds of roles for films made by the Biograph Company, both bit parts and leading roles. She later said, "I played scrub women and secretaries and the women of all nationalities. I decided that if I could get into as many pictures as possible, I'd become known and there would be a demand for my work." Was she ever right? Here's a statistic that's hard to believe. In the year 1909, Mary Pickford starred in 51 films, almost one a week. Now, in those days, actors weren't listed in the credits, but audiences soon fell in love with Mary Pickford. And before they knew her name, they referred to her as the girl with the golden curls, or Blondie Locks was another nickname that audiences affectionately called her. By 1912, Mary was ready for a change, and she was ready to leave the Biograph Company. She returned to Broadway to star in A Good Little Devil, but really missed film acting. That's when she knew her heart was on the silver screen and not in stage productions. Now, in 1912, Adolf Zukor formed the famous Players Film Company, which more than a century later still exists. Today, you know it as Paramount Pictures. Zukor's famous Players Film Company attracted many silent screen film stars, including Mary Pickford. 3 of her most successful silent films were made at the famous Players Film Company. They were In the Bishop's Carriage, Caprice, and Hearts Adrift. That film was so well received that Pickford asked for the first of her many publicized pay raises based on the profits of Hearts Adrift. Now, what's notable about that movie is the very first time Mary Pickford's name was listed above the movie title on marquees. Soon after that, in 1914, Tess of the Storm Country came out. According to her biographer, this is the film that made her the most popular actress in the country, and perhaps the whole world. Tess and the Storm Country was named to the National Film Registry by the Librarian of Congress in 2006 for its cultural and historical significance. Now, the only film star that could rival Mary Pickford during this time was Charlie Chaplin, a man she would go into business with in the future. By 1916, Mary Pickford negotiated a deal that gave her full authority of the productions of the films she was in and an astonishing salary of $10,000 a week. More than 100 years later, that's still an astonishing salary. Even considering inflation, it's an amazing amount of money. Another part of her contract granted her rights to half a film's profits, and this puts Mary Pickford in the history books as the first actress to sign a $1 million contract. Now, when her contract expired in 1918, she moved on to First National Pictures. The following year, she teamed up with Charlie Chaplin, D.W. Griffith, the man who'd given her that first screen test, and Douglas Fairbanks to found United Artists. Their goal was to establish a movie studio that allowed actors to control their own interests. In 1920, Mary's movie Pollyanna grossed more than $1 million, and a couple of years later, another movie, Rosita, also grossed $1 million. Her success was unrivaled. And little girls who idolized her long before they became movie stars included Joan Crawford and Jean Harlow. But near the end of the decade of the 20s, technology would usher in a change with the arrival of the talkies. This is what people of the day called motion pictures with sound. The movie The Jazz Singer debuted in 1927 and launched a new era in the film industry. In 1929, Mary played in her first talkie in the movie Coquette and showed off a brand new look, one that shocked audiences. You see, her mother had died in 1928, and after a period of mourning, Mary decided to cut her famous hair. The audience that grew up watching Blondie Locks, they were shocked. In fact, her new look made the front page of the New York Times. The audiences didn't like her more mature look, but the industry loved the movie and awarded her the Academy Award for Best Actress. It was only the second time the award had been given out. It was the pinnacle of her career, but times were changing. A transition was underway. All of the established stars of the silent film era were panicking as the writing was on the wall. As the talkies became more popular, Mary Pickford's acting career began to fade. In 1933, she retired from acting. In addition to being a founder of United Artists, she was one of the 36 co-founders of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. During the 1910s and 1920s, she was known as the Queen of the Movies. She used her popularity during World War I to promote Liberty bonds, and she helped sell millions of dollars worth of bonds that helped support the Allied cause in World War I. After her retirement from acting, Mary Pickford continued her business partnership with Charlie Chaplin at United Artists. She wouldn't leave the company until 1956, when she sold her shares for $3 million. Now, she became reclusive in her later years, and she died in 1979 in Santa Monica at the age of 87. A century ago, Mary Pickford was the most famous woman in the world. But like all starlets, the fame and celebrity fade with time. But 100 years later, Mary Pickford does remain one of the most famous women in history, and she was indeed a woman who made a difference.